Hi, I'm Jody Cohn, your host, and I'm so excited to share one of my favorite people today, one of my really good friends, actually. Dr. Debi Silber is the founder of the Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute and a holistic psychologist, a health mindset and personal development expert, the author of the #1 best-selling book, The Unshakable Woman, 4 Steps to Rebuilding Your Body, Mind, and Life After a Crisis, and her newest book, which I highly recommend. We're going to talk more about this. Trust Again, Overcoming Betrayal and Regaining Health, Confidence, and Happiness. Debi, welcome.
Oh, hello, my friend. So great to be here with you.
Oh my God, you know I love you.
I
So
love
my first question that I ask everyone is, how do you define resilience?
Resilience is getting back up there every single time you get knocked down. It's just showing your fears, your doubts, your insecurities, who's in charge.
That's a great definition. I love that. And the other thing that I love, I mean, you talk a lot about resilience, but I want to kind of talk about what situations in life require resilience. You know, those crises that we
Mhm.
bump into, and how it shakes us up and wakes us up and allows for us to rebuild something better. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, and that's the benefit of a crisis. And I know people say benefit, she's crazy. No, because here's the thing. So often we walk around numb and we're just kind of sleepwalking through life or just getting by or just surviving. And it's when a crisis happens, it gives us that opportunity to reevaluate and say, wait a second, how am I living? What am I doing? What am I not doing? What am I ready for? And it allows us to just then create a life based on that. And that's where it's a great opportunity. And I always look at it like it's a pendulum. If you imagine the pendulum swings like this, and this is where most of us live before crisis, right? Before trauma. Not so good, not so bad. And then what happens is you have whatever the crisis is, death of a loved one, disease, natural disaster, betrayal, whatever, and it sends you like this. Now here's the challenge. We're not supposed to stay here. Here's where you get your ideas together, you lick your wounds, you come up with a plan so that you have all the motivation and incentive you need to then do this. Swing to greatness. When you think of any thought leader of our time, they're not teaching us anything from here, and they're in too much pain to teach us from here. They've done
Yes.
this, and this is what they're teaching us how to do.
Oh my God, I completely love that. I love that. And you have a process, and you talk about the stages. Can you share how you get from here to here, please?
Yeah. Yeah. And that was in the study that I did. It was on betrayal. What holds us back? What helps us heal? What happens to us physically, mentally, and emotionally when the people closest to us lie, cheat, and deceive? So I did a study. Of course, you don't study something like betrayal unless you have to. So I had 2 horrific betrayals. And one of the discoveries, well, it led to 3 discoveries. One of them was while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and so many of us do, if we're going to fully heal, we're going to move through 5 now proven predictable stages. And what's really exciting about that is now we know what happens physically, mentally, and emotionally at each one of those stages. And we know what it takes to move from one stage to the next. So the beauty of that is now we know healing is predictable.
I love that. Do you want to share a little bit about your own betrayals?
Oh, sure. So I had a family betrayal that was just so painful. And I thought I did everything I needed to do to heal. And apparently there was more work to do. And then a couple of years later, it was my husband. Like anybody who's been through it, you're devastated, blindsided. And I was, I was just like anybody else. And so I got him out of the house and I said, okay, well, here I am. I have 4 kids and 6 dogs and a business, and I don't know what the heck to do, but I have to figure this out. And I like to learn. To me, that's how I figure stuff out. And I needed to learn this one at the PhD level. So
Yeah.
that's what I did, and I enrolled in a PhD program in transpersonal psychology, which is the psychology of transformation and human potential, because I was changing so much and I didn't quite understand it. He was too on his own. That was nice and all. I wasn't really ready to look at that, but I was just so determined to move through this. And I remember saying, if I can find a way through this and heal, I'm taking everybody with me. Um, and that was the pledge, and that was the promise. And sure enough, as I was healing, he was kind of doing his own thing, and I was like, well, what if there's a bigger reason for this? What if I can heal from something like this, and then learn something so profound? And one of the things I did learn was rebuilding is always a choice. Whether you rebuild yourself and move on, and that's what I did with my family. Certainly, it just wasn't an option to rebuild with them. Or if the situation lends itself, if you're willing, if you want to, you can rebuild an entirely new relationship with that person who hurt you. And that's what I did with my husband. So not long ago, as two totally different people, we married each other again.
I so love that. And I love taking people with you. And I think that's where we're aligned is
Mhm.
somehow staying stuck was not an option.
No.
Can you talk about why some people stay stuck?
Oh, it's what we see out of the 5 stages of betrayal, and I'm happy to go through the stages.
Yes,
We
I want you
see
to.
that. Okay, that is a classic stage 3. So you know what? When I go through it, you will see everyone will know exactly why they're staying stuck there.
Oh,
So
okay.
so let's go through the 5 stages. So the first was like a setup stage. And I saw this with every single study participant, me too. And if you imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, there was a real heavy lean on the physical and the mental, and kind of neglecting the emotional and the spiritual. So what does that look like? Looks like we're really good at thinking and doing, not really prioritizing the feeling and being, right? But that's where our intuition lies, and it would have served us. Anyway, if we only have 2 legs of a table strengthened, easy for that table to topple over. Stage 2, by far the scariest stage. And this is the breakdown of the body, the mind, the worldview. This is D-Day, Discovery Day. It's as if the person just takes a mask off, saying, oh, no, no, this is who I've been this whole time. It's a shock to the body, to the mind. So you've ignited the stress response. Now you're headed for every single stress related symptom, illness, condition, disease. You cannot wrap your mind around what you just learned. This makes no sense. And your worldview is shattered. Your mental model. These are the rules. This person's safe. Don't go there. This is how it all works. And in a moment, everything you've known to be real and true is no longer. It's terrifying. The bottom has bottomed out on you. But think about it. If you were walking down the street and the bottom were to bottom out on you, what would you do? You'd grab hold of anything and everything you could to stay safe and stay alive. That's stage 3. Survival instincts emerge. It's by far the most practical of all the stages. If you can't help me, get out of my way. How can I survive this experience? Where do I go? Who can I trust? Where do I live? What do I do? But here's the trap. Once you've figured out how to survive, because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma of where you just came from, you're like, whew, okay, I'm good. And you start planting roots there. You have no idea there's a stage 4 and stage 5, but a few things happen. The first thing is you start getting these small self benefits from being there. You get to be right. You get someone to blame. You get a target for your anger. You get your story. If you tell your story to anybody, you get sympathy from everybody you tell your story to. You don't have to do the hard work of trusting again. Do I trust you? Do I trust you? Forget it. I just won't trust anybody. So you justify your space. You start planting deeper roots because that's where you are. Now the mind starts doing things like, maybe you're not all that great. Maybe you deserved it. Maybe whatever. Deeper roots. Because you're here a while, and now you're talking this way about yourself. Like energy attracts like energy. So now you're calling situations and circumstances and people towards you that confirm that's where you belong. It gets worse. I'll get you out of it though. Because you don't like it, but you don't know it gets any better, you're resigning yourself to thinking, well, this stinks, but it's where I am. So the only way you deal with it is now you use things like food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, keeping busy, anything to numb, avoid, distract yourself. So now think about it. You do that for a day, a week, a month, a year, 10 years, 20 years. If I see some 20 years out and I say that drinking or that emotional eating, do you think that has anything to do with that painful betrayal? They say, oh my gosh, that happened 20 years ago. But do you see? They were in a perpetual holding pattern that whole time. That's the stage we get stuck in, that stage 3. So common. If we're willing to let go of the story and everything that goes along with it, mourn the loss, you grieve. I mean, it's a real thing. Do a few things. You can move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. Here's where you accept and acknowledge, I cannot undo that experience, but I can change what I do with it. And here's where, if you've ever moved to a house, office, condo, apartment, it's like, it's not quite cozy yet. All your stuff isn't there, but it's going to be okay. So you're turning down the stress response. You're not physically healing just yet, but now you've stopped the massive damage you were causing in stage 2 and stage 3. I found this so interesting too. If you were to move, you don't necessarily take everything with you, right? You don't take the stuff that don't represent who you want to be in that new space. Same thing here. If your friends weren't there for you, here's where you've outgrown them. You don't take them with you from stage 3 to stage 4. You are changing right here. When you've settled into that stage 4, you're making it okay. You're making it home. You could settle into and move into stage 5, most beautiful stage, healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. The body starts to heal. You didn't have the bandwidth for eating well, exercise, self-love, self-care. You were surviving. Now you do. Your mind is now making new rules, new boundaries, all new stuff based on where you've been. And you have a new worldview based on your entire experience. And the 4 legs of that table, in the beginning, it was just all about the physical and the mental. We're solidly grounded by this point because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages.
I love that. And one of the things, like the people, like kind of losing people, realizing you can't bring people with you. I think a lot of us struggle with that, the lifelong friends. Can you kind of speak to that?
It's so scary when you don't understand it and when you don't know it. And that's why I write about it in Trust Again as a warning. It is so common because you can have your friends, it doesn't matter, 10, 20, 30 years. And then you say, what the heck is happening? Is it me? Yes, it is. You're changing and you see things differently. You're not okay with gossip anymore or low level, low energy conversations or a one-sided friendship. You're making different rules. See, that's the thing too. When after a trauma and when it's about that resilience, about that really profound change, you're creating a new identity. You're bringing the parts you like. You're leaving behind the parts that don't serve. So we're very aware of what we were tolerating that we're no longer willing to tolerate. And I see this in our community all the time. It's you realize, wow, I was settling. Why was it okay that I just had that one friend who would always just sort of, dump on me and I was always there for her and it was never reciprocal. Here's where you realize, I don't want that anymore. And we're really growing. And what happens so often, I'll give you a little diagram. This explains so much right here. After we're kind of here before our experience.
Right.
And then there's the crash. Whatever it is. And then we decide, should we choose to do the work, right? So we're helping ourselves. We're making changes physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. But those other people are right here. So what we do at first, we feel very uncomfortable. We don't want to outgrow them. So we keep doing this. We like it here, but we keep doing this. We like it here, but we keep doing this. And then we're like, I like it here. And we want them to do this. But they may not be ready, able, willing. You know what happens eventually? Get that. And we're like, oh, I see you clearly. And they're like, oh, what happened to you? So here's the thing. We need to be so rock solid here that this either doesn't bother us. We love them for who they are, right? Or this. But here's the thing too. When you are so committed to being right here and you're unwilling to do that anymore, this can't help but show up. It just can't. So like in the case with my husband, I was doing this on my own. And he was like, what the heck? I better step up.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, I've had a variety of things. Like my mom actually really showed up in a way that I'm very grateful for. And there were a couple friends that really couldn't.
Yeah. And that's not where they are. They're either not capable, not willing. And then you're here and then you can love them for who they are. And that's okay. And you're not really affected by it, but you're not doing this and you're not expecting this. This is suffering when you're expecting this. But when you're like, it's okay. I just love you and let's see each other and I have no expectations and we're good. That can work too. But this is where you're supposed to be.
One, and this kind of gets into the idea of trusting yourself and feeling like you deserve this. Can you speak to
Mhm.
that a little bit?
Yeah, I teach a 4-step trust rebuilding process. I'm happy to go through that too if it would serve.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, because here's the thing. When I look at trust as a brick wall, right? Here's my fake brick wall, your brick wall, where it's like, it's how is trust built? Brick by brick by brick, right? Each opportunity that person had to prove that they were trustworthy represents a brick in that wall, right? And then, and a mind-blowingly painful moment, the entire wall can come tumbling down.
Right.
Now, but here's the thing. How can it be built again? That's what people ask me all the time. Can trust be repaired? I don't believe so. Can it be rebuilt? Yes. But what does it take? The same way it was built the first time, brick by brick by brick. So the person where the trust was shattered has to be willing to watch that brick wall be rebuilt. And the person who broke the trust has to be a really good bricklayer, right? And again, each opportunity to show they have that they're trustworthy is represents a brick in that wall. But one of the most common things that happens is we lose trust in ourselves because we say, I'm a bright person. How did I not see? How did I not know? So to rebuild it, we have to start at the very foundation because that's where it was shattered. It's
Hmm.
found trust is foundational. The people, the person who gave us that sense of safety and security is the very one to take it away. So it needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. So you start with, level one, which is rebuilding that very foundation. And I'm talking as basic as, will the sun rise? I don't even know. So you test it, right? And
Yeah.
sure enough, there it is. And you do that a couple days till you're like, you know what? I can count on the sun's going to rise. I'm good. Okay, there's your foundation. The next, once you're truly okay with that, and that may take a while. The next level is you have to trust in your gut, your wise inner guide, your intuition, which we turn down so often, right? And think about it. If you ever hear someone who like they're saying one thing, but the body language, the mannerisms are off,
Right.
trust it. It's not
Yeah.
congruent. The head, the heart, the everything has to speak the same way. And if they don't, we have to trust that and strengthen that. If someone, you'll see, like, let's say two babies giggling, trust that. It feels good. Know how your body responds when you feel trust. Know how it does, how it responds when you do not feel trust. And from there, you have a bit of safety because now you trust, well, you know what? My intuition is telling me this. My intuition is telling me that. From there, you have to start rebuilding trust in yourself because that was equally shattered. You don't trust your judgment. You don't trust anything. So the way to do that is you give yourself little tasks and then you do them. I'm going to drink that glass of water, and then you do. I'm going to make that phone call, and then you do. I'm not going to call my ex, and then you don't. Whatever it is. And now what you're doing is you're showing yourself, my word is law. I'm trustworthy. So you can imagine you've built that foundation. You trust that wise inner guide, your intuition, your gut, your whatever, whatever you want to call it. Now you trust yourself. You can feel that sense of safety and security. Only from that space do you now carefully and cautiously start to, trust in others. What we do so often is because it's so awkward or uncomfortable and we don't like the feeling, we bypass all the other stuff and we're like, okay, I'll just trust you again. It doesn't work.
Oh. Or even being open to, like, if a relationship ends in an unraveling, being open to dating new people.
Right. But that's why we
Yeah.
have to rebuild trust in ourselves first. It never works when we try to bypass it because
Right.
that's foundational. And we always want, and then we wonder also, and it's that same, I can't stand that whole you complete me thing. I hate that. I hate that. So what does that mean? I'm a half, best case scenario, I'm a half, and the only way I'm a whole is if I someone else. Well, why is my wholeness contingent on someone else?
Yeah.
Right? Because what happens if something happens to them? So the whole idea is this is your opportunity to just become your physical, mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual best. You're a whole. And from that space, that's when you can meet another whole. They are a power couple. It's a whole different opportunity.
Right, right. And I love also the way, I mean, you talk a little bit about resilience versus transformation, but can you share the story of when the house gets destroyed. I love that analogy.
Okay. So, the difference, but here's the difference between resilience and transformation. And my view of it, resilience is bringing back, restoring. You need that for your everyday. Transformation is a whole different thing. So using that analogy of a house, let's say the house needs a boiler and you get that boiler, that would be resilience. You are restoring it. Let's say it needs a roof and you get a roof. That would be, that would be resilience. You are restoring it. Here's trauma and transformation. A tornado comes by, levels the house. A boiler's not going to fix it. A roof's not going to fix it. Both of those won't fix it. And here's the thing. You truly have every right to stand there at the lot where your house once stood and say, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. And you'd be 100% right. And then you can call over everybody you know and say, look at this. Isn't this the most horrible thing you've ever seen? And everyone around you would agree. And you truly have the right to mourn and kick and scream the loss of your house until your last breath. However, if you choose to rebuild the house, you don't have to, but if you choose to, there's nothing there. Why would you build the same one? Right?
Yes.
Why
Yes.
not bigger, better, more beautiful? That's the opportunity. Trauma is the setup for transformation. And to stare at the light, and this is what most people do. That's why they stay stuck in that stage 3. They are refusing to accept and acknowledge the loss of the house.
Yeah.
Right? But then there are others who say, all right, well, it's gone. And I'm going to build I'm going to build the best house possible. That's the opportunity. Totally up to
Yeah.
us.
I see. I love how you reframe kind of crisis as an opportunity for change, a catalyst.
Well, it's so easy to get stuck.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get stuck because we have a great story. It hurts, it's painful. And I'm not minimizing any of that. It stinks. Right? It's awful. However, staying stuck isn't fair to us.
Right.
It's just not. It's just not. So however it is that you move through, when it comes to betrayal, the 5 stages, really when it comes to any crisis, how do you move through it? You owe it to yourself. Remember, I started with this. You were here. That experience landed you here, but that doesn't mean that's where you plant roots. No, that means look at the incentive. You can't do this from here, right? And so why would you stay here? Why would you stay here? I mean, yes, great love songs come from here. Great poem.
Yeah.
But really nothing else good that I could think of.
No, and I really love, I mean, we're very aligned. Like my whole intention with Resilience Roadmap is to give people a roadmap, to give them actionable strategies. I know you have a course as well, so that, I love that you figured it out and you're taking people with you. And I'm hoping that a lot of the listeners will follow you. So share more about how they can work with you.
Oh, well, thank you. The best thing they could do is we have the post-betrayal syndrome quiz. And we've had at this point, I don't know, 18,000 people who've taken it to see to what extent they're struggling. And what that's about is there's this collection of physical, mental, emotional symptoms so common to betrayal. It's now known as post-betrayal syndrome. So best thing to do for them is start going there. And that's at the PBT, as in post-betrayal transformation, thepbtinstitute.com/quiz.
Perfect. And your books are Trust Again, fantastic. And then you have some courses as well, right?
Yeah, well, we have from Trust Again to within the PBT Institute, we have programs, we have certified coaches teaching daily classes, we have master classes with experts, we have my open Q&A, and we have just the most amazing groups and clubs and forums of people who get it. But it's they're all there to lift and inspire.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that, the support groups. Like I avoided the grief groups because everyone was stuck.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing. I looked at it and I said, I want to create a community, first of all, of what I desperately needed back when I had my own experience. And then based on the research, and then based on what the 18,000 people have said they wanted. And then I looked at what didn't work. And clearly what didn't work is if someone just goes to a therapist who is not highly skilled in how to move someone through betrayal, that does more harm than good. If someone is numbing, avoiding, distracting, that's not helping them either. Or if they're in some sort of support group where it's like the Ain't It Awful Club, and when you're healing, you don't belong. Like, what the heck is that? So everything that didn't work, I'm like, we're not having that in our community. And everything that does work is included. So it's support is crucial. And even everybody in the study said how much they would have benefited from support, but the right kind of support.
Yeah.
That
I,
makes
ha-
all the difference in the world.
I had a lot of ain't it awful people in my life. Not
Yeah, that
that.
it keeps you stuck. It just keeps you stuck. So, in just our forums and in our community, it's the kind of thing where someone's sharing and then they are met with, "Oh, wow, good for you. How did that work? Oh, that's great." So it's inspiring. It's inspiring, it's supporting, it's uplifting. And the idea is we're looking at the community. It's like training wheels. You need it until you don't. Period.
Yes.
You're not supposed to
Yes.
stay there forever.
You have that great story about the person, no Kleenex holders. Can you share that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, oh, that's really funny because I used to have this women's empowerment group, and I thought it was great. And I had one friend who just kept sending people to my group. I think this is a story time. Kept
Yeah.
sending people to my group, and then they would never come back. And one day he said, "What the heck are you doing there? I keep sending people, and they're not coming back." I said, "Well, the whole idea is it's not just to sit and marinate on your issues. I've been coaching for 30 years. If I'm going to find out what's going on, it's so that I can extract what I need to know so we do something with it."
Yeah.
And that's not what I don't attract a lot of people who just want to rehash their story over and over. They may want to, that's not my people.
Oh no, it was the people who wanted credit for giving you the Kleenex.
Okay, so
Like,
that was in that group. So
yeah,
in that group, one of the I had a bunch of rules that I would start with, and one of them was no tissue issue.
that's it.
Yeah, and they would say, "What the heck is a tissue issue?" And it's tissue issue is this: we would have a big round circle, and there'd be a box of tissues because we're bringing up some deep stuff, and inevitably someone would have a crisis. But I made sure, not a crisis, just something would
A
break
release.
through, a release. And so I made sure I told them beforehand, no tissue issue. And what that is when someone has that release, there's always that someone who wants to run over with the tissues. And two things happen right then. It stops that person from fully experiencing what may have been buried for so long. And number two, it makes it all about the person who brought the tissues over.
Yeah, I had a lot of tissue issue people
That's it.
who,
And so I set the scene and the context by letting them know we know you're all wonderful. That's not it. You don't have to share this here. Of course, if you're sitting right next to that person, give them a little gentle rub, whatever. But you don't want to break that by racing over with the tissues. And it's their moment, not yours. So I
well, yeah. One friend who actually lived locally. I had people flying from different continents, and they were like, "Oh my God, I'm such a good friend because I, was here and I have kids." And we were all like, "If
yeah.
that's how you feel, go home."
Yeah, that's a different kind of tissue issue. Yeah, but it's the same thing. It's like when that person is going through their most painful experience,
Yeah.
be there. And one thing I learned too, I learned this years ago when my mom passed, that some friends just absolutely didn't know what to say. And I'm sure you've experienced this too.
Oh yeah.
And so they didn't. And I remember how bad that felt. So going forward, I would say so often if someone would lose someone they loved, I would say, I don't know what the heck to say to you, but I'm just here. I love you.
Yeah. And that's actually the perfect thing to say, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Or just a couple of people tried to validate. They just said, I just want to acknowledge, like, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Because really, it's you just want to know you're not alone. Someone's there, but I couldn't pretend to understand what you've been through. So why would I? But I just want you to know I'm there.
But that also opens the door and gives them permission to say what they're really feeling when you're not projecting what you expect them to feel on them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And but I feel like that's one of the biggest things people go through. People you love will go through so much. Just show up. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're flubbing all over yourself. Doesn't matter. Just show up.
Yeah. No one escapes, sadly.
That's it. And I remember even with my betrayal, there were friends who they stayed away because maybe they thought it was contagious. I don't know.
Yes. Oh,
But
yes.
you remember stuff like that, and it just doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel good. So, you know, and I always it's easy kind of to look at it and say,
Or
well,
they vilify you because if you're a good person and this happened to you, it means it could happen to them. So they have to
yeah,
somehow
right.
downgrade you.
Well,
Yeah.
and I get it. And I understand people are uncomfortable and it's, you know, it's awkward, but that's when you see who your friends are, and that's why it's so common to outgrow friends. When you're moving from that stage 3 to stage 4, you're just not tolerating it. I mean, it's really, you know, when you think of that I just love the whole idea of the caterpillar, right? The caterpillar, just there's that one day it's just done being a caterpillar, hangs it right, hangs itself from a branch in order to die through the life it's known, spins the cocoon around itself, and think about it, goes through something where it's unrecognizable, you know, from anything it once was. And, and because of that discomfort, I imagine, or just because of that change, it emerges as one of the most beautiful creatures on our planet, the butterfly. The caterpillar cannot become the butterfly if it doesn't undergo that experience. Just as we can't get to the other side of our crisis trauma if we're unwilling to get a little messy and uncomfortable.
I love this. You've shared so many amazing, valuable tools. Is there anything else we didn't touch on that you'd like to share?
You know, I would really just say that the most important lesson I've learned through this, and just in any crisis, and I've had a few in my day, between disease, death of a loved one, betrayal, is just because it happened to you, it's not about you. And whatever it is that you need to do to find your way over through whatever, do something good with something bad. Otherwise, it's just like a bad game of hot potato,
Yep.
you know?
Don't let it define you. I love
No.
that. Thank you so much, Debbie. You're the best. Mwah.
Uh, Thank you, my friend.